They say jealousy is silent, it hides behind smiles, behind laughter, even behind brotherly love. And sometimes, it waits for tragedy to open the door. David was a man everyone admired, successful, kind, and deeply devoted to his family. He was the kind of husband every woman prayed for, and the kind of father every child deserved. He built his empire from nothing, a beautiful mansion in Lekki, cars, businesses, and above all, a peaceful home. And by his side was Laura, graceful, warm-hearted, and beautiful in every sense of the word. Their love was the kind that made people believe in forever. Every morning, David would kiss her forehead before leaving for work, saying, "My queen, don't miss me too much." And she would smile, "I always do." They had a son, Daniel Jr., bright, playful, and the joy of their lives. To everyone around, they were a perfect family. But in the shadows stood someone who didn't share in that joy, David's younger brother, Michael. Michael had always lived in his brother's shadow, watching, comparing, envying. Each time David bought a new car or took his family on vacation, Michael's jealousy grew darker. He would smile in public, but inside, he was burning. Then one Monday morning, everything changed. David left for work, waving goodbye to his wife and son. But halfway across the third mainland bridge, fate struck. A fatal accident, one that took his life instantly. When the news reached Laura, she fainted. Her world collapsed. The pillar of her home, gone. Friends came. Family came. Even his employees filled the compound, crying and mourning. But as everyone wept for David, Michael was weeping for something else, opportunity. To the world, he was the grieving brother. But deep inside, he was planning. The cars. The mansion. The bank accounts. And yes, even his late brother's wife. Days turned into weeks. Michael began visiting often, bringing food, offering help, pretending to be a kind brother-in-law. Laura welcomed the help, she needed all the support she could get. But she didn't know that every visit came with a hidden motive. One evening, Michael called her aside. He cleared his throat and said, "Laura, now that my brother is gone, tradition says you should become my wife." Laura stared at him in shock. "What did you just say?" He smiled coldly. "You heard me. It's the right thing. You and the boy belong with me now." Tears filled her eyes. "Over my dead body. I can never do that. You're my husband's brother." But Michael wasn't ready to take no for an answer. He kept insisting, sending messages, trying to intimidate her. When she continued to reject him, he turned against her. He began spreading lies, accusing her of killing his brother, calling her a witch. Laura wept every night. She would hold her son and whisper, if David were still here, none of this would be happening. Their mother, Mama Esther, tried to stop Michael. "Michael," she said, "fear God. That woman suffered with your brother. Leave her and her child alone." But jealousy had already blinded him. One evening, things went too far. Michael came to the house with area boys. They shouted, threatened, and forced Laura and her son out of their own home. Her cries echoed through the street, but no one dared to help. Holding her son close, she went to her friend Anita's house, broken and homeless. Anita held her tight. "Laura, I won't let them take what you and David built together." Laura sobbed. He didn't even pity his brother's only child. How can someone be this heartless? Meanwhile, Michael was living the good life in the house that wasn't his. He drove David's cars, slept in his room, and threw parties with strange women. One morning, as he walked through the mansion, he smiled to himself and said, "Finally, this is the life I always deserved." But the wheel of justice was already turning. Anita contacted a lawyer and filed a case. And soon, the truth reached the court. When Michael stood before the judge, he tried to act innocent. But the evidence was clear, David and Laura were legally married, and according to David's will, all his property belonged to his son. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. "I hereby declare that all assets, properties, and accounts of the late Mr. David Danjuma be transferred to his lawful heir, his son, Daniel Jr. The defendant, Mr. Michael Danjuma, is ordered to vacate the premises immediately." Michael lowered his head in shame. As he was escorted out, his mother couldn't even look at him. A week later, Laura and her son returned home. The gates opened, and she stepped into the compound she once shared with her husband. She smiled through tears. Anita hugged her tightly. "I told you, justice will always find its way." Laura looked around the house and whispered, "David, we're home again." Her son ran around the living room, laughing, the same laughter that had once filled the house. And for the first time in months, Laura felt peace. Because sometimes, even when evil rises from within your own family, truth and love always find their way back home.